So, hello and welcome to this second in my series on astrology. And for this second episode, we are covering the second sign of the zodiac, Taurus. And I want to remind you that if you missed the first one where I covered Aries, then you can go back to the previous episode of the podcast or previous video, depending on how you are accessing this information, and check it out. Please do. So with Taurus, we are in a grounded, pleasure-loving season. Now, I am actually recording this once again right before the end of this season. I'm recording on the 12th of June and we've actually got a week to go in Taurus season in accordance with the Sidereal Astrology system. Now, if you missed the last episode, you may want to go back to that as well, where I talk a lot more about Sidereal Astrology, how that system works and why I'm using it. But I will just say that if you happen to catch this recording really quickly and you can access an astronomy website or an app like Star Walk, I think is the one I have on my phone, then you can actually see that the sun is currently sitting in the constellation of Taurus. Now, if you were using the tropical Western system of astrology, the most commonly used one, that would be telling you that the sun is currently in Gemini, and that is just factually incorrect. And this is why I'm just a total convert to the sidereal system. So it's really linked in with astronomy. It's where the stars and the planets actually are at the moment, and using astrology in that way. So to me, it just makes common, perfect sense. And I certainly am finding that with the charts that I'm doing in the Sidereal Astrology system, they're super accurate and really detailed down to little facts that just are so true for people. So absolutely loving it, complete convert, and I'd really encourage you to check out some more information about it, either in my previous episode on Aries or have a Google, have a look on Ecosia, which is my preferred web browser because they plant trees when you do a search, and just see what you can find out about it. So anyway, let's get into Taurus. So the dates for Taurus in the sidereal system are May the 13th to June the 19th. And as you will learn, if you do look into a bit more about sidereal astrology, these dates are not set in stone either. It's a couple of centuries over which they will change, but they're not going to always be for the rest of eternity, those particular dates, due to precession, which I will let you check out in the previous episode or your own searches. Okay, so the reason that the dates are for more than 5 weeks for Taurus is that the constellation is quite large. So this is what sidereal astrology does as well, is it actually looks at the actual size of the constellations. It doesn't just divide the zodiac up into 4 equal divisions for 12 equal divisions of the pie. And in fact, in sidereal astrology, we use 13 signs. But it actually divides the wheel of the zodiac up in accordance with the size of the constellations that we're looking at. So Taurus is quite big, therefore the dates for Taurus are for more than 5 weeks. So who really needs to pay attention to this particular blog, this particular video or podcast, depending on how you're accessing the information, is obviously people born between those dates. What that means is that your sun sign is in Taurus, and that means that you identify as a Taurus. You see yourself, you express yourself with that Taurian energy. And that means that you will see yourself as patient, as reliable, and certainly as productive as well. The other people who really need to pay attention to this particular episode are people who may have their moon in Taurus or their ascendant in Taurus. Now, for those things, you do need to know how to read your astrology natal chart. If you want a hand with that, please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to let you know. So if your moon is in Taurus, that's going to mean that you need to feel Taurus qualities for emotional fulfillment. So it would mean that you need the security of a stable environment. You need to be able to use all of your senses, because Taurus is in charge of all of our senses and really loves to be able to experience life and especially pleasure through all of the senses. And very connected to nature as well. So you'll need all of those things for emotional fulfillment if your moon is in Taurus. If your ascendant or your rising sign is Taurus, that means that is the sign, Taurus is the sign that was on the eastern horizon when you were born, and that is what you are becoming or developing through this lifetime. So as a Taurus rising, it means you're becoming persistent. You're also becoming relaxed, calm, stable, and you're striving for security and enjoyment. So lastly, in this context, my work is all around well-being, and as such, I am also currently studying medical astrology. And if we're looking at what Taurus means for health and well-being, we want to consider what is in your 6th house. So again, you need to be able to read your astrology chart, and please reach out if you want to understand how to do that. If Taurus is on the cusp of your 6th house, so Taurus is the sign at the start of your 6th house, being the house of health and well-being, then all of this information I'm going to give you is really relevant. Please also, the previous episode I did on Aries did cover a bit more information about the houses and what they are, but basically they're areas of life, and the 6th house is the area of health and well-being. Of course, if you have someone significant in your life who fits into any of these things with Taurus as well, a Taurus sun, moon or ascendant, or in their 6th house, then it would be a great idea to really pay attention to this information as well. It will help you to understand them and help you to look after them if there's somebody in your life that you need to nurture and nourish. Okay, so Taurus is a earth sign. So previously we had Aries, a fire sign. Taurus is the first of the earth signs, and its mode is fixed, which means that it's really going to bring us back to ground after the fire that was started in Aries. So earth signs are unsurprisingly very grounded signs. They like predictability. They prefer to live in the material world as opposed to the dream world, and have a really practical outlook. Because of their constant drive for security, earth signs can be slow to change. They're not going to like lots of changing of anything, of where they live, of what they do, of who's around them. They want slow and steady pace to life that they can predict and that they understand and feel safe in. Sometimes that can mean that they're too slow. Taurus is the most earthy of the earth signs because of this fixed mode that I just mentioned. So that means that Taurian energy really dislikes unfamiliarity. Taurus can be stubborn and lazy because it will avoid and procrastinate about change. Taurus really values reliability and as such is very faithful and dependable itself. Taurus is usually gentle, sweet and modest, and tends to be popular because its friends can rely on it, especially when it comes to enjoying the good things in life. So where Western astrology was developed in the Northern Hemisphere, Taurus season is the middle of spring, a time of fertility and growth. So it's really where the roots of the plants are digging into the soil, just like Taurus, becoming really rooted and grounded. But where I am in the southern hemisphere, and many other people as well, we're instead at the end of autumn during Taurus. But I really feel the energy of Taurus as well with that. I think it's there's a real energy of kind of hunkering down, going into your safe little burrow in preparation for winter. We're also surrounded by beauty in nature during autumn, as we are in spring. But, you know, those beautiful earthy colours of red, orange and yellow are abundant, and we can really enjoy the pleasures of the natural and material world in that way. We also have sunny days as the earth takes its fertility into hibernation. So we're really looking at Taurus from that antipathetic point of view. And once again, in the first episode, I did talk about how we can look at the signs with a sympathetic or an antipathetic view. Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus, and Venus is commonly associated with romance. But it's really all about values. So it's about what we find beautiful in all ways. So it's not just, you know, physical beauty, but it's what we value, what we want to bring into our lives. The Venus energy is about attraction, attracting what we want, whereas Mars, which we had with Aries, is about going out and getting what we want. So Venus and Taurus, therefore, is a feminine sign. It's a yin sign. And we can see that as well with the sign of Taurus, which is the bull. And the symbol of the horns of the bull actually are the same as a moon. It's a crescent moon, which really highlights that feminine energy. So the bull is the big, strong, steadfast male cow, and that is, you know, the perfect symbol for this energy of Taurus. So I mentioned before the 6th house of health and well-being. In astrology, each of the signs rule one of the houses, and Taurus, being the second sign, rules the second house. And the second house is our house of what we value. It's our house of material possessions. And money and finances definitely come into there, but it's really about, you know, values, what we value. So if you have planets in the sign, in the second house, then that is what you're going to value. So for example, if you had Venus in your second house, that would mean that you really valued beauty, physical beauty, aesthetic beauty, and possibly really value romantic relationships as well. So planets and signs in this second house illustrate how we obtain and utilize our resources. So it's commonly called the house of resources. And also about how we identify with the natural and material world. So for myself, I have Saturn in my second house, which means I really value boundaries and structure. And those who know me will certainly be able to vouch for that. Okay, so let's move on to the body aspects of Taurus as we are focusing on our well-being. Each sign of the zodiac has a particular body type associated with it, and that is going to be in relation to its element. And as we've said, Taurus is an earth element, so it's going to have the typical earthy body type, which is solid. It's strong, it's compact, it's a heavy build, you know, big bones, thick hair. And this body type can certainly tend towards having excess weight. Now, I want to just highlight here that in most cases, people's body type relates to their ascendant or their rising sign rather than their sun sign. So if you are someone who's born during those dates, May 13th to June 19th, then it's, unless you have an earth rising sign as well, then you may well not have that kind of body type. So when we think about earth, what its nature is, what it's like. It's cold and it's dry, but it can tend towards moisture as well. The Taurus constitution, therefore, tends to be cold and dry, having a great tendency for stagnation and accumulation, so hence that excess weight. So the Earth Taurian body type will tend to accumulate fat, to accumulate water, to accumulate lymph. Taurus rules body parts including the neck and all the cervical vertebrae, the throat, so all the things in the throat, your tonsils, your pharynx, your larynx, your thyroid gland, really importantly. So via the thyroid, which is in that area, Taurus rules metabolism and also storage systems, which makes sense because that's its nature, is to store. It also rules the ears and all 5 senses, but especially the ears, the shoulders, the base of the skull and the lower jaw, and also the bottom of the brain, so the occipital region of the brain. So what this means is that Taurus can tend towards ailments in these areas. So common ones are injuries or illnesses in those parts of the body, so a sore neck, throat infections, shoulder out of place, all those kinds of things. Thyroid issues, especially a low functioning thyroid, weight gain, as we've mentioned before, and this particular type, a Taurian type, will find it really difficult to lose weight. High blood pressure, slow digestion and constipation, because remember, it's all about that, accumulating and holding on to things, and hemorrhoids as well. Taurus does generally have a really strong constitution. It won't fall ill easily. Because of that holding on nature, it can, however, mean that when it does become ill, a Taurian type will really hold on to the illness as well, unfortunately. So illnesses can tend to become chronic or really lingering for Taurian types. Now, just remembering again, we're especially talking about Taurian energy in the 6th house. So if you have Taurus in the 6th house, also if you have Venus in your 6th house, and the 1st house as well, which is the house of the physical body. So they're the main ones, but certainly if you have Sun or Moon as well in Taurus, then these are things to be aware of. So you probably know I'm always talking about what I call the 7 essential energies, commonly known as the chakras, and it's good to just think about, well, what chakras, what essential energies is Taurus associated with? And it really has strong connections with the 1st chakra, or what I like to call foundation energy, that whole, being grounded, safe and secure. That is all about that energy. And it's it's real desire for that, for stability and security. However, we also need to definitely connect Taurus energy with the 2nd chakra, or what I like to call creation energy, because of its love of beautiful things. This is really the energy of the 2nd chakra. So it's love of beautiful and delicious things. It's love of beauty in general, that real Venusian influence, the influence of Venus, its ruling planet. So what can we do if we have one of these Taurus constitutions? What can we do for our health and well-being? First of all, just a reminder, so I have a system called Even Star 5-Star Wellbeing, where I'm considering the 5 key elements to holistic health and wellbeing that I believe you need to consider when you're trying to overcome any health or wellbeing concern, or just get yourself into a place of feeling absolutely fabulous. So the first one for Taurus is definitely movement. Taurians really need to move. They're inclined to not move. So they don't tend to prioritize movement, and it's really something that they need to get into a good, secure routine with. And once they do that, then it'll be fine, because that's something they're familiar with. And it helps them to feel secure and like, life is good because they're doing the same thing each day. But, really because they have that tendency towards stagnation, which is going to mean toxic overload. Their body isn't processing toxins appropriately, and also obviously the weight gain element. And the fact that they tend to overindulge. They love beautiful, delicious foods and can really overindulge like that. So please, if you have a Taurian energy in your chart, make sure you are prioritizing movement. Make it something that you like to do. That's the same for everybody, but especially for Taurus. And do it regularly. Get it into your routine so it's a part of that stable, secure, everyday life that you have. I do have a blog all about the magic of movement, which will tell you so much more about why you need to move. A number of videos and podcast episodes as well about that as well, so please check them out. Sleep is the second element of 5-star wellbeing that I'll talk about here. Probably not a major concern for Taurus because they, like that sort of stable, steady routine, so they're probably going to tend to be better with sleep than perhaps some other energies. But if they're in a bad routine with sleep, then it's going to be hard for them to break that habit. So if you are in a bad sleep habit, then please again check out all the blogs that I have on sleep and episodes, interview. In fact, the previous episode of the podcast, if you're a podcast listener, was with the Sleep Whisperer Deepa, who gives us heaps of information about how to improve your sleep. Okay, third aspect of 5-star wellbeing is what I call being. So it really covers everything not covered in the other 4 aspects. And in relation to Taurus, I think that whole being mindful and using moderation with eating and drinking is really important. An appropriate management of emotional well-being as well, because Taurians have that holding on energy. They can find it quite difficult to express emotion, and may hold on to negativity, to not great emotions as well. So being aware of that and using other practitioners or friends and family to help you express yourself and let all the full range of emotions be a part of your life. Meditation would probably be a really good thing. Well, it is great for everybody, but a good way to really access your inner self. Bark flowers are always a beautiful, gentle way to balance energies, and the one that's highly recommended for Taurus is gentian. There are a lot more, and the ones I'd recommend would depend on exactly what you're trying to manage, so please get in touch if you'd like to know some other bark flowers for yourself. And we also recommend with medical astrology cell salts. And the one for Taurus is Nat Phos. This is something that I don't use a lot. They're quite a difficult supplement to manage because you have to take them 4 times a day. You can buy them lactose free, but so many people have problems with lactose. There's something that's worth considering. Have a look at it, do a web search on those cell salts, but it's not something that I think is your first go-to. I'd go to the bark flowers first, or the essential oils, which I'm going to talk about. Food. So we've already said many times, Taurus loves the good things in life and loves the good, delicious, rich foods. Have a tendency to go for carbs a bit too much. So a great tip with that is to use your carbs in the form of resistant starch. So what that means is you cook it. So say you cook your pasta, you cook your rice, you let it completely cool, and then you eat it, you reheat it, and the starch will be a lot more resistant to being broken down quickly by your body. Avoiding dairy is a great idea because of that tendency to stagnate. So we're thinking of mucus, and mucus production can be really stimulated by too much dairy. So it's a good thing to avoid as a Taurian. Having iodine-rich foods is great for your thyroid. So thinking of all the seaweeds, kelp, sea salt. Next episode of the podcast, I've actually got an interview all about the throat and looking after the throat, the truth energy. So feel free to check that out when it comes out. Avoiding malted foods, including alcohol. So alcohol is obviously something that Taurus is going to love, but really needs to be moderated. Sodium sulfate foods are great, so that includes spinach, onion, Swiss chard, cabbage, cauliflower, cucumber, celery, apples, radishes, pomegranates, stone fruit. So there's heaps there. Lots of water to keep everything moving. We want to really try and avoid stagnation. So moving the body and moving the digestive system with lots of water and lots of fibre, really essential. There are some great herbs to eat for Taurus, including having black pepper on everything, basil, thyme, turmeric and sage. And then also herbs that we might like to use as a herbal tea. Some great ones for Taurus are licorice, nettle, valerian, dandelion and sage. And there are some others as well, so if you're interested in those, just get in touch. And then lastly, looking at our surroundings, which is our last aspect of even star 5-star well-being. There are a huge list of essential oils that would be great for Taurus. You can check them out on the blog, which will be linked in the notes. But just to really quickly run through them without talking about why I'm suggesting them, check that out in the blog instead. But essential oils for Taurus are thyme, clary sage, black pepper, basil, blue tansy, lemongrass, myrrh and wild orange. So there you go, Taurus. I hope that was useful for you. Once again, please feel free to reach out if you want to understand the part that Taurus plays in your life. I'm still offering my super cheap L-Plater astrology reading. It's just $30 Australian, and we can certainly do appointments by Zoom or Skype or any other method. So anywhere that you are in the world, I'm happy to help you out with that. That is an absolutely rock bottom price for an astrology reading, but I just feel like that's the right thing for me to do at the moment while I'm still studying myself. So please take care, and apologies that I did get this out just before the end of Taurus season, but with Gemini I will start to get on top of it and get them out a bit quicker. Thank you so much. Be well.